I don't think things stress me as much. I mean, yes, they're there. I would think about them, but then I will think better things will come. And I think it's about rewiring our thought that matters a lot, which is very, very hard. But I think it's a practice that we can all do. Yes, tomorrow I'm thinking, yeah, maybe today my job is not safe, but what can I do to make my job safe? So that's the next thing that I'm thinking about, right? Rewiring my thought. Can I improve my skill? Can reading another book help me? Can learning a new technology help me? Those things have always been there with me. And I feel like that's how I get my grit, being able to think forward and at the current situation and think, what is my strength?
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff LaCusta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
How are you today? It's great seeing you.
Oh, it's great seeing you too. I know I've met you in person and it's so cool seeing you in person too. But this is our first time doing like a camera video.
Oh, I know. Well, I'll tell you, my dream one day is to have a studio and host my guests in person.
Oh, that would be pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so not many people know this because I didn't share yet, but I've met you in an incredible event where you were amazing on stage. So for all of our listeners, would you mind telling us what are you up to today and what is your mission in the world?
Yes, so I can start by introducing myself. So my name is Madona Wambua, and I do have a second name, Siombua. I know many people might have seen that. So I have three names, Madonna Siombua Wambua. And in all those names, my two names mean rain. My last two names, Siombua and Wambua, mean rain. I know. I like to mention. And I've been working as an Android engineer for a couple of almost now. I started back in 2014 where I built my first application. And then I won the Growth Google Scholarship. And then I built my second application now, which is called Budgeting Buddy, which has over 10,000 downloads, going to almost 50 now. It's pretty cool. I know. It was my first biggest project to build from start to finish. And then now I am writing my first book too, because the Android system has really changed over the years. And I feel like I'm doing so many things, which I love. I feel like as long as I love what I'm doing, it's good. So that is me. And then we can get to more details later. But definitely that's what I'm doing. And I've also met Nadia, and she's amazing. I don't know.
Well, thank you. I always have so much appreciation for women doing amazing things in the world. And I'm just going to drop it right in. You are in a male-dominated field.
Yes.
And I know you and I spoke about this many times, especially engineering in corporate America. There's still few women that are trailblazing. And so you're one of those. I want to start with asking you, how did you end up in this field?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I feel like to me, it wasn't my first dream, which is interesting. And I know I've told this story before, but it now feels like everybody that has heard my story, they might know this, but your audience is new. So I'll tell it again. So my dream was to be an aeronautics engineer. I really loved planes. And I thought, wow, I could actually learn how they build that stuff or how it's actually flying. Because to me, just seeing how it was flying, that was amazing, right? Like, how do they build this? And then through that, I still continued pursuing my dreams, but I did not become an aeronautics engineer. I ended up being a software engineer, but not by like by chance. It was just by also being inspired by seeing a laptop. And I was like, wait, how does this laptop work? And how is it working? And then I got a phone. And I remember seeing a snake game. And I was like, wait, how did they make the snake game? So I feel
Wow.
like to me, it has been just curiosity over the years. Like, I feel like I'm curious up to now. Like, I'm always curious about the way the things are happening and why they're happening. And I used to have to watch this particular show called How Things Work. And it really inspired me when I was young. Because then I would see how even manufacturing works. And I was like, wow, people actually making amazing things around the world. And I wanted to be that person. So that has been my inspiration. And that's how I even got into mobile to begin with, through that search and understanding. And then I ended up there.
Right, right. I remember that show that you're talking about because they would show how very weird things would be made, and you would be
Yes.
like, whoa. And yes, you're on mobile, specialized on mobile. I
Yeah.
was so proud to be understanding your coding lessons in the events that we were together.
Yeah.
Not many people know about my tech gig.
Hmm.
I'm wondering, so very powerful that you said this was not my first dream,
Yes.
but I was always very curious. And so tell us a little bit more. How did you eventually decided to study about it and
Hmm.
really go deep into it and make this your profession today?
Yes. So when I got my phone, again, the curiosity, just the games, I was like, wow, I'm really loving what I'm seeing. But then I started wondering what is actually behind that phone. And in fact, I did take a couple of, not years, but just my own research to understand PCB, the way they connect those PCBs, the way it's done. And I found it to be pretty stunning. And then there was this particular person on YouTube. They had like a dedicated channel just to show people how they connect the wires, like all that connection of, I don't know if, so I don't know the full meaning of it now, but I remember it's like a board that's green and then it has so many things that connect together. That was stunning. And also watching that person write code and make that work, like I want to be like him, but I thought it was too complicated to make it work. So when I got the phone, I looked at the phone and I was like, I really want to do what they're doing. And then I started looking into what actually happens to get those apps there, like how are they doing that. And then I learned that actually they use Java for Android, because Android is very accessible around the world. So my first phone was in an iOS, the way an iPhone. I like to call it iOS, but I know it's an iPhone. The way many Americans have iPhones. My first phone was an Android. And I was like, wow, I really want to try to see if I can build something after I learned that you use Java. And then I had a little bit knowledge of Java and I was like, wow, okay, let me see if I can build my first game. So I started in just investigating online, and I realized a couple of people had built some apps, and then you back in the days you could easily just reverse engineer an app. So that's what I did. I reverse engineered an app and then build like a math game for my kids because I was so inspired. So my kids were not born yet. But I was like, I can build a math game where my kids can actually use in the future, which doesn't have any ads. Because every app that I saw had a weird ads, when there's pop-ups and pop-ups. And I was, what if I build an app that didn't have any ads for my kids? And then I built a simple math. It was pretty simple. So it was just an addition, division, subtraction, and multiplication. And then if the kid got it correct, it would do like a pop-up, hooray, you made it. And I remember it's such like downloading those kind of audios to just put it out there on the app. So the app got 500 downloads with a 4.5 rating. I know, back in 2015. And to me that really touched my heart because I could see parents saying, I love this app, it's keeping my kids busy. And I'm like, I did something that people appreciated. Remember the curiosity I had about the way they made things and the way people love, because I loved what they did. Like now I see people appreciating what I'm doing. That's how I stayed in mobile.
Wow, what a powerful story. And I love that you're saying, oh, it was a very simple app. Meanwhile, I'm like, whoa, you built an app. So kudos to you, Madonna. This work is really incredible. I've always been fascinated by your name. Actually, I know you touched about your name,
Yeah.
but I'm Italian, and Madonna in Italian means the Madonna, like Jesus' mother. Like it's a very
Yeah.
important figure, societally speaking. So I love that. Truly, truly amazing. Um, I don't want to shy away
Hmm.
from the tough conversation
Totally.
because I know you and I spoken about this, and I cannot possibly imagine that you had an easy life
Yeah.
because I know you're a mother and you're trailblazing in a field that, again, we said is male dominated.
Hmm.
And if you feel like, of course, I don't want to push it too much, but if you feel like, I
Yeah.
would really love to ask you if there was a moment or a story in your
Yes.
life that you felt like this is tough and that shaped your leadership and how you've been trailblazing in the world.
Definitely, definitely. Yes, so that's a very good question. I feel like I've said that, but all the questions are very good. So to me, it was this instance when I came from my sabbatical and I went back to work. It was during actually the pandemic. And I got a pretty good job. Again, still Android, but I was building now for developers, not for consumers. As a developer, you can either build for consumers, which is mean people that don't know how to code using your application, but also as a developer, you can build for engineers, other engineers, which is people that will be using your code. In this particular instance, it's called like a software development kit. So I was building an SDK. Now, this was my first time doing this. And I'll tell you, it was not easy because now you're building for people that will scrutinize your code into
Mm.
details, in the tiniest of details. Again, it was very hard for me. In fact, the biggest fear that I had was that I thought I would be fired within the first 3 months because it's the pandemic, the kids are home. You have to do everything. You have to help educate your kids because you have to make them sign up on the Google Meet and the Zooms. And then you have to help them with homework. You have to cook. You have to do everything. And then you have to work. And it was a new job. Oh my goodness. It was so nerve. Every evening, I would sleep thinking, I'm going to be fired tomorrow. And I
Mm.
really felt that that was my low because it's like, I just got a job and I'm going to be fired. I don't know
Mm.
if people experience that fear, but actually, that's a good point because I met someone yesterday. She reached out to me and she told me she just wanted to talk to me about her story. And I was like, yeah, I'm there to listen. And she told me something similar, that she just got a job and she's been thrown into something she's never done. And now she keeps thinking she'll be fired. And then I just told her that I felt the same. And I realized, oh, so many of us sometimes have that fear. Because, when you're still like when you're an individual contributor, you're working to impress your bosses most of the time and do your work on time, it can get scary. And I feel like to me, also I found engineering to be a little bit more of work, work, work. I feel like where I was working previously, that's the way it was because I would ask questions, but I think that wasn't perceived as a way of learning, rather like of a way of disturbance to the other developers. And to me, that wasn't encouraging because that's what I got like later on the review. Like, hey, somebody said you asked them a lot of questions. And I thought, wow, so it's not like before where people would sit and learn and I mean, just be trained. I wasn't trained. No, they didn't train me. Like, this is how, and I'd never built an SDK before. So it was pretty sad that you were put into this and you're not expected to ask questions. That's what I got. You're not expected to ask questions. So it was pretty heartbreaking. One thing, however, there was the light at the end of the tunnel, which was that's when I started, because I think during the pandemic is when I actually even formed my community a lot, because I started reaching out to the community, just asking a couple of questions indirectly. And then I realized I could find solutions easier because I would talk about it's a similar situation, a similar case, but rephrase it very different. And that really helped me a lot Because then if somebody would say, yeah, I've experienced a similar issue, but then this is how I solved it. And that helped me at least do a couple of work. But then I realized at the end of it, I started getting better at it because the more I was training at it, the more I was pushing myself. And then I was learning about a reactive programming way that I had never done, adding stress to stress.
Mm.
So
Well, there's a couple of things I would like to follow up on
yeah,
because, and I'm gonna say this, Madonna, you talk about incredibly difficult things with such a smile and lightness that I salute you. I mean, you're amazing. I don't know how you do this. It's pretty remarkable. Like this element of you
yeah.
is fantastic.
Thank you.
You spoke about a couple of very big themes.
Yeah.
Number one, the fear about losing your job, the
Yes.
fear about being fired.
Yeah.
This podcast is listened by a lot of people in tech, in the
Hmm.
industry. We are going through these massive layoffs. Every
Yes.
week there's one. There's so much terror. I was hosting a group of mentees
Hmm.
this week from the organization she runs it,
Hmm.
and we were talking about how's everyone doing, and everyone mentioned the sense of safety lately is one of the biggest value, and
Yeah.
is this is even holding me back by the desire of pursuing my dreams, because I'd rather be safe and secure in
Yeah.
my job than risking to lose it. So
Hmm.
that's one I would love to talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
And then you spoke about the power of the community.
Yes.
I'm really impressed by how you decided to use your learning and
Hmm.
your like the struggle that you went through in a moment of not knowing what to do and not being able to ask the question,
Yeah.
to say, you know what, I'm gonna open a community
Yes.
and I'm going to learn about this and make it easier for me, and paving the way
Yeah.
basically. Now these two are so powerful,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering,
Hmm.
where do you get this grit? Where do you get this energy and fuel that is propelling you forward to standing up and be a role model for everyone around you?
Wow. I think I listened to you talk too when we had the event at Chief, and I feel like it's what you call it, spark your zeal. I know. And I feel like to me, I don't know if it was in me, like inbuilt in me. However, because I don't know how to even put it. But one thing that I do know is that despite every hard challenges, I've always found a way to find like a light in the. I call it a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think things stress me as much. I mean, yes, they're there. I would think about them, but then I will think better things will come. And I
Mhm.
think it's about rewiring our thought that matters a lot, which is very, very hard. But I think it's a practice that we can all do. Yes, tomorrow I'm thinking, yeah, maybe today my job is not safe, but what can I do to make my job safe? So that's the next thing that I'm thinking about, right? Rewiring my thought. Can I improve my skill? Can reading another book help me? Can learning a new technology help me? Those things have always been there with me. And I feel like that's how I get my grit, being able to think forward and at the current situation and think, what is my strength? For instance, when I was in this job, I can just give a good example. When I was in this job and I was very stressed, it's even funny that I stayed there for almost 2 years. I know, even me thinking I would be fired. But one thing that I noticed that it was a bit stressful because again, I don't think there was that a lot of learning or asking from you because it felt, and I feel like it's okay. It's a startup, so startups most of the time they're rushing to do things, they're trying to get the things done, so there's no room for that question asking, and that's how I felt, or that's what I was exposed to. And if you did, I felt like maybe it wasn't appreciated in that way. But what I did was when I built this community, that was my fallback plan because I knew that I've now built a community. It will be easier for me to network and ask for the next job. So I
Mm,
knew that I can reach out to people, and that's what happened. My next job was actually through a community. So I
mm,
knew that, yes, I had this thing that was really lingering and affecting me a lot. But then I thought, if I made this community, I would have a fallback plan. And that's what happened. So
mm,
when I was working there, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, Madonna, you know what? I've been seeing what you're doing in the community, and I really appreciate what you're doing. And I think you would be a pretty good fit for our team. We're building this good stuff. Do you mind?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" And then that's how I immediately got the job. And I was like, "Shh." So at least I
mm,
felt safe. So to me, it's that building of something in my mind, knowing that, yeah, it's not working right now, but how can I make it better for me? Yeah.
There's so much greatness that you just shared, like there. There's the idea of controlling the controllables.
Yeah.
And so, really looking after what is it that I can influence within
Hmm.
my situation that might be
Yes.
unpleasant, might be challenging, might be rough. Then, number two, there is this idea of me doing steps that might lead me to 10 more steps. So, you opening up a community and that landed you the next jobs. And then I'm going to say this, I see your attitude and spirit, Madonna, because people that are listening to this know that I'm already going into my spiritual woo woo.
I love that.
You attract what you put out.
Very, very true.
So
Hmm.
if you are there, in your room, and I'm not saying that we don't have those moments. Everyone
Yes.
knows that I have my dark weeks and I cry
Hmm.
and I feel this is the end of the world and all of it. So everyone, I always encourage people to go through therapy, coaching, whatever helps you to pull you out of the tough moment. But eventually, as you said, you gotta spark your zeal, which is finding that thing that is gonna propel you. And I really admire that you said, you know what, this is a moment that is tough. What can I do? I'm gonna open a community, and then started attracting, and you became a magnet for the opportunity that needed to come your way.
Yes. I like that you said that we attract what we put out, and that's very true. Because to me, I've always seen that if you bring that energy, people will respond to that energy. And I love the fact that you said we also have our days. And that's why I say, even if I ask everybody I meet, join a community or find a community, and many people tell me, Madonna, it's very hard. It's not as easy as you say. And I tell them, yes, you're not even required to do a lot. I feel like showing up is enough. Showing up is being part of a community. And how is showing up? Showing up is just, for instance, this podcast, listening is showing up. Why? Because you're learning something new. Even when your friend has a book, they've released a book and you're cheerleading for them, that is showing up too. You're being engaged. You know what's happening. To me, that's what I call showing up. Because sometimes I know we might be closed into that individual, because we're all individualists. And we can be so enclosed into being individualists that we forget that sometimes having a community is not as bad. And I know the challenge, because many people are like, hey, I'm not very good with people, like with networking and socializing. I know I tell people sometimes I'm like that too, because I find that when I see new people, I'm very shy a little bit. But then when people see me, they're like, hey, hey, then I'm all in, and then we can discuss. So it is something that people can learn and practice. And also showing up, again, doesn't have to mean that be out there giving talks, be out there, right? No, 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 no. Just that supporting other people, joining up like a webinar online, going to a conference just to listen what is happening, or joining a podcast or listening to a podcast just to be involved. I like that more.
Oh my God, I really love this concept of showing up, because I believe that a couple of things happen when you show up. First, you show up for yourself, and that has a ripple effect on your brain energies. And there's so much documentation out there and content that says that at the moment you start showing up, everything else starts happening. It's almost this rolling effect
Yeah.
that positive attracts positive. So there's that. And what you just said, we don't have to show up all in the same way.
Yeah.
Like for you might be owning on stage at GHC, which I want you to talk about that. For me, might be hosting a podcast. For others, is writing books, and for others, is just listening or talking. So it doesn't matter how big or how small is the showing up, but show up. So powerful, Madonna. So powerful. So you have a lot going on in your life. Would you mind sharing with our guests and listeners what is it that you do on top of your of being a software engineer, because you do a lot of trailblazing things.
Thank you very much. So, apart from that, I actually just founded. So, I've always had this idea about helping out in a certain way. And I just started thinking, I don't want to spend 10 years and then later start saying, I wish I did it. No, I feel like this is the right time, so I want to do it. So I just started my own company, like a startup. So I know it's an interesting venture, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. And that's, I think, is the right time. Apart from that, I'm also 2023 and 2024 GHC co-chair, which means I get to review talks and help organize the content that's going to be there for this year's GHC. And if people don't know what GHC is, it's a grasshopper celebration, or you can search anitab.org and find out more. They have great speakers from time to time, and they have great content for women in tech. And I remember the last one I attended, we had over 20,000 women from around the world. I know it was unbelievable. And it's good for students who are looking to find jobs. It's good for execs who are looking to learn more about leadership and how women are doing it, or the trailblazers. There's a lot of also technical content, and my track is called public interest tech. What this means is I get to review talks about AI and the kind of policies that's happening around tech for good. And to me, it was such an honor to be picked to be in this particular track, because AI is very popular right now. Everybody knows about AI now. Everybody's afraid about AI taking up jobs. But look, I was mentioning to someone today that this is a track that actually now even has like a college degree, 4-year college degree. Yeah. Public interest tech. If people didn't know, right now there's like people you can go to study and become like a public interest tech person, like a degree on that, which means even though AI comes, I feel like the fear about the jobs being taken away, that's not true. Because right now, what's going to happen is that people that who will join will need other people that are advocating for AI to be fair, to be used for good. And those people will study definitely, and there will be advocates. So I'm so excited to see. So far the talks are so great, and I'm so excited for people to just come and see the talks and listen to them, and it's unbelievable. So that's what I've been doing. And I've also written a book on Android. So if you're looking into how you can get started into Android, it's called Modern Android 13 Cookbook. It's actually a cookbook, which made it much easier for me, because I now started thinking about this concept. I was like, wow, it was not that hard to write, but it was very interesting, because it's like I was writing a cookbook with recipes, but coding recipes. How cool
Mm,
is that?
it's so
So
cool.
now moms can also know how to learn how to code for Android using recipes.
I love it because it's democratizing topics that seem so hard, but you
Yeah.
make them so approachable. You are also part of the Google Ambassadors Network, and you do a lot for women.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this episode, you also have your own podcast, by the way,
Yes.
which I want to make sure we link to the show notes. As we wrap up this episode, what would be your one sentence of wisdom for our listeners?
I love to say this a lot. And to me, I feel like it's not said as much, especially now that we have a lot of technology. And I feel like the future is technology for sure. And one thing that I would like to say is that as long as we educate moms, kids are educated,
Mm.
and the generation is powerful. And what I will say is that no sisters left behind, because to me that means as long as moms are educated, they will educate their kids will educate their kids will educate their kids. It's like that and like that. And now in tech, I know you said one word, but sorry.
No, one sentence is fine, even one paragraph.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that now that AI also is out, I feel like as long as we have that diversity way advanced, things will be built with diversity in mind. There's so many cases that way before. A simple example is like the watches, the cars, they were not built with women in mind. So think about that. So what if we don't have a diverse community even now when AI is being built? What will
Mm.
it, I mean, there'll be a lot of problems in the future because we'll be complaining a lot like this is not working for us, this is not doing as we want it to do. And also think about it, if you educate the kids too about the needs for this, the future will be bright. So to me, I would say not sisters left behind.
Wow, this should be the title of the as this episode. I love it. No sisters are left behind.
Yeah, no sisters left behind.
Amazing.
Bring them all
How
in.
can I love it? How can people get in touch with you, Madonna?
Yes, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I think Twitter was my favorite place to go. Madonna underscore Wambua, Wambua. And Madonna has a single N. But now I'm on LinkedIn. It's the same. And where else can you find me? Just maybe on Instagram, but not as much. But definitely find me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and send me an email. I always respond.
Oh, I like that. You are an incredible gift to the universe. I'm really happy that I got to meet you a few months ago.
Me too.
And more power to you and shine bright. Thanks for being with us today.
Can I say something too?
Yes.
More power to you too, and shine bright.
I mean, I take it. Woo.
Bring it on.
I truly wish you a wonderful weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the US, and so we need
Yes.
some time to relax and be happy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It was amazing doing this.
Yes.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.